Yeah, well, that's the thing about offence, isn't it? When people say they're offended, it's that just because you're offended, it doesn't mean you're right, you know? It's... offence is about feelings, and feelings are personal. Some people are offended by equality. So what? You know, so you can't second-guess people. If you try and please everyone, you'll please no one. With comedy as well, I think you've got to deal with taboos and contentious issues, and sometimes you deal in irony, and some people don't get that, but, you know, you can't legislate against stupidity, otherwise you'll be doing nothing, you know, because I'm not doing it for the 200 egos in the room. I'm doing it for the 200 million people watching around who aren't winning awards, who aren't millionaires.
Man, that was something else. Ricky kicks things off by talking about how people always get offended and act like being offended makes them automatically right. He's got a point. Just because you feel a certain way doesn't mean you're the ultimate judge of truth. He then explains how comedy needs to tackle tricky, even uncomfortable stuff. And if you try to make everyone happy, you'll just end up doing nothing worth watching. Oh, and don't miss how he casually drops that freedom of speech is more important now than ever. Honestly, if this is where we're starting, you can bet it's only going to get crazier.
And freedom of speech is so important these days. I've reached the age now where I don't care anymore. It's a sin. Not to joke about all the bad things, that's a waste. Because that's exactly what we should joke about. You can get sued in this country for saying someone's gay if they're not, you know, which is a homophobic law, because you can't be sued the other way around. You can't be sued for saying someone's not gay if they are.
Okay, wow, things just got spicy. Ricky goes on to call out a weird legal double standard, saying you can be sued for claiming someone's gay when they're not, but if they actually are, it's no problem. That's a head-scratcher, right? He makes it clear how ridiculous some of these rules are, pointing out how they don't make any logical sense. It's the kind of observation that leaves you wondering how we even got here in the first place. And trust me, he's only warming up.
Which seems unfair, doesn't it? Relax, I'm going to be nice tonight. I've changed. Not as much as Bruce Jenner. And I found out my crime was that I dead named her. Now, I'd never heard that term, you know, before a day after the Golden Globes, and that was saying her old name and even acknowledging that she used to be a man.
Did he really just go there? Yup, Ricky brings up the whole Caitlyn Jenner situation, where people got upset with him for using her old name, something he didn't even know was a thing at the time. He admits he only found out what dead naming meant after the Golden Globes backlash, and he's clearly amused by how fast people jump on things these days. It's the kind of moment where you're laughing, but also thinking, man, things got complicated real quick. Just wait, it gets even better.
I saw him on the Olympic Games. It was decathlete. He was in everything. He was all over the place. Shot put and pole vault. He won a medal. He was famous. He was on telly all the time. But, you know, a big, famous man with a huge, I don't know, but I mean, I'm guessing I think it's a big...
Now, this next part is gold. Ricky takes us back to when Jenner was a big-time Olympic athlete. And of course, he can't help but throw in some cheeky humor about how famous and macho she was. He exaggerates just enough to make it hilarious, and you can tell he's loving every second of it. It's classic Ricky, poking fun, making everyone a little uncomfortable, and somehow still keeping it light. But buckle up, he's far from done.
So you gotta love Ricky Gervais, because the way he exposes these woke people is just so funny, and it actually makes you realise just how crazy it is. And to be honest, there's nothing they can do about it. He's too big to cancel, just like Dave Chappelle.
No way! He actually said that. The narrator jumps in and praises Ricky for being one of the few comedians who can't be cancelled because he's just too big, like Dave Chappelle. They say Ricky's style of humor is necessary because he's calling out the absurdity of today's world. Honestly, it's refreshing to hear someone say things most people wouldn't dare say out loud. And if you think that was bold, just wait until the next part.
He gets involved in politics, but in this next clip he actually is talking about politics because even he has had enough of how corrupt these politicians really are. So let's check it out.
Now this is where things get interesting. Even though Ricky doesn't usually talk politics, he makes an exception because the corruption and hypocrisy have gotten out of control. He's like, I don't normally get political, but come on, this is ridiculous. And really, who can blame him? When someone like Ricky, who stays out of politics, starts talking about it, you know it's bad. And yep, it's about to get even more real.
The worst thing is, the in charge do what they want. And you know what? I see all these people saying all the parties they were having and what all the stuff they were doing. And people were saying, that was the day I couldn't see my mum in hospital, or I couldn't go to my dad's funeral. And because the people in charge, the posh, privileged people in charge, were acting like Charlie Sheen. I mean, really rubbing salt in the wound. And I say, I don't get political, but they're all
Oh man, that was brutal. Ricky goes all in on the politicians who partied during lockdowns, while regular folks were stuck at home missing out on major life events, like funerals and hospital visits. He even compares them to Charlie Sheen, which is both hilarious and scathing at the same time. You can feel the frustration in his voice, and it's hard not to agree with him.
When someone says to me about another comedian, they say, oh, they're not funny. Even if I agree with them, I stand up and I say, well, you can't say that. You've got to say, you don't find them funny, And I hate it when people say, that joke was offensive. I gotta say, no, you've got to say, you found it offensive. Because it's all about feelings, and feelings are personal. And there's loads of types of comedy, and comedy evolves, There's a new type of comedy at the moment called woke comedy, right? No, it's very progressive, There are some clubs now where the comedian has to sign a thing saying he won't say anything contentious, or he won't say anything that could offend anyone. It's a safe space for the audience. Woke comedy, and
What just happened there? That was one sharp dive into the heart of modern comedy, wasn't it? Gervais jumps straight in, pointing out how people love calling jokes offensive when really they should say, I didn't like it. He explains that comedy keeps changing, and there's now this thing called woke comedy, where comedians sign agreements not to offend anyone. Sounds a bit boring, right? Anyway, Gervais sets the stage for his big rant on cancel culture and how comedy's getting boxed in. Get ready for something even crazier in a sec.
And the big controversy last time I did it was a Caitlyn Jenner joke, right? Oh, outrage on Twitter the next day. And by outrage, I mean a couple of people going, it was transphobic. It wasn't transphobic in the slightest. It was a joke about a trans person, but the joke had nothing to do with that aspect of her existence.
Wow, that reaction got people riled up big time. He talks about the uproar after his Caitlyn Jenner joke at the Golden Globes. People thought it was transphobic. Gervais clears things up, saying the joke wasn't about her being trans at all. It was just a cheeky jab at something else entirely. He uses this story to show how people often get the wrong end of the stick when it comes to comedy. And trust me, you won't believe what's coming up next.
There are no 10-year-old tweets of people saying, you won't find a 10-year-old tweet of someone saying women don't have penises. Do you know why? We didn't think we fucking had to.
Did you just catch that bit? Gervais goes on about how what's okay to say today might not be okay tomorrow. He brings up how nobody back then felt the need to say things like women don't have penises because, well, it was just obvious. Now, it's a whole debate. Crazy how fast things change, right? Wait, there's more where that came from. Hang in there.
I sent back, I make jokes about AIDS, cancer, famine, and the Holocaust, right? And you're telling me I should never joke about food allergies. She sent back, yes, but the Holocaust didn't kill children.
That twist caught me off guard. He switches things up with a funny story about food allergies, poking fun at how people get offended selectively. Gervais cracks jokes about dark topics like the Holocaust, AIDS, and famine, but someone gets upset when he jokes about allergies. He fires back with some biting humor, showing just how ridiculous these double standards are. Don't go anywhere. The next bit's even funnier.
That was irony. There's going to be a bit of that throughout the show. See if you can spot it, okay? Now, that's when I say something I don't really mean for comic effect, and you as an audience, you laugh at the wrong thing because you know what the right thing is. It's a way of satirising attitudes. Like that first joke, I used the old-fashioned sexist trope that women aren't funny. Now, in real life, I know there are loads of funny women. Like, I did it again, well spotted, good.
That was something, wasn't it? He shifts gears to talk about gender and identity, throwing in some playful jabs at how extreme virtue signaling can get. The bit about pronouns and toilets is peak Gervais. He makes it silly, but also thought-provoking. He's clearly mocking the way society can overcomplicate things. Stick around, you'll be chuckling and thinking at the same time.
When I start on a contentious subject, I feel the tension. Like, oh, is this going to be all right? Are we going to be allowed to laugh?
Yeah.
And I take them through a scary forest and out the other side, and it's always okay. And they, phew, right? And I think that's the important thing, because I've often said that people get offended when they mistake the subject of a joke with the actual target.
Yeah.
And they're not necessarily the same thing. You can make jokes about any subject. It depends what the joke is.
Yeah.
There's no...
What did we just watch? Gervais dives into his philosophy that no topic is off limits for comedy. He argues that making jokes about serious things helps people process them, and that's the whole point of humor. This moment really sums up why he thinks nothing should be sacred when it comes to jokes. Don't blink. The next bit's just as thought-provoking.
I did think of adopting for a while, a little third world child, because that would tick all three boxes, wouldn't it? You know? You think of it like, one, I wouldn't be adding to the population problem. I'd be alleviating an existing problem. A young kid born through no fault of his own into abject poverty. He would have died without me. I can literally save his life and give him a great upbringing, right? Two, he would be grateful, wouldn't he? He'd want to pay me back, wouldn't he? Particularly if I let him know that all the other kids in the village, they weren't so lucky, they didn't make it out. I'd tell him that early on, so he really bucked his ideas up, right?
You didn't see that coming, huh? He pulls out a wild bit about adopting a kid from a developing country, poking fun at people who do it for clout. Gervais imagines how the kid would be forever grateful, reminding him constantly about how lucky he is. It's absurd, it's exaggerated, and it's hilarious.
Thank you very much for being here. But before I start tonight, I just wanted to read a brief statement that I prepared. I denounce anti-Semitism in all its forms. And I stand with my friends in the Jewish community. And that, Kanye.
This opening really set the vibe, didn't it? Chappelle starts by delivering a clever preface, stating he denounces anti-Semitism in all forms and stands with his Jewish friends. Then he flips it perfectly with, "And that, Kanye, is how you buy yourself some time." It's a classic Chappelle move. Serious, but somehow hilarious at the same time. He knew exactly how to kick things off. And trust me, it only gets better from here.
I've probably been doing this 35 years now. And early in my career, I learned that there are two words in the English language that you should never say together in sequence. And those words are the and juice. I've never heard someone...
Man, he didn't waste any time getting real. Reflecting on his 35-year career, Chappelle casually points out a comedic minefield. Putting the and Jews together in one sentence is never a good idea. He jokes that anyone who tries it usually ends up in trouble, which, coming from Chappelle, feels both brutally honest and oddly comforting. Honestly, this bit was both hilarious and slightly nerve-wracking. And if you think this is bold, you've seen nothing yet.
Vaguely, I remember it started with a tweet, strange tweet. It was like, I'm feeling a little sleepy. I'm gonna get me some rest, but when I wake up, I'm gonna go DEFCON 3 on the Jews. And then he just went to bed. I was up all night worried, what is he gonna do to the Jews?
That story about Kanye's tweet was straight up wild. Chappelle dives into Kanye's strange timeline, starting with the infamous DEFCON 3 on the Jews tweet, which he hilariously describes as something Kanye dropped and then casually went to bed. The way he paints the absurdity of the situation is top-tier comedy. Who tweets something like that and just sleeps peacefully? It's the kind of comedy that makes you laugh while thinking, wait, did that really happen? And oh boy, it only gets crazier.
I grew up around Jewish people. I have a lot of Jewish friends. so I'm not freaked out by your culture. I know a little bit about it just from hanging around. Be like, yo, let's go out after school tomorrow. They'll be like, we can't go out. It's Sha-Na-Na tomorrow. I'll be like, where? What is Sha-Na-Na? I had so many questions. Why do some of your people dress like Run DMC?
Now this part was both funny and kinda wholesome. Chappelle shifts gears to talk about his Jewish friends and how growing up around them made him familiar with their culture. He jokes about being confused by Jewish holidays and their fashion sense, especially comparing it to Run DMC's style. His storytelling here is so casual, it's like he's just chatting with you over coffee. But don't get too comfortable. Things are about to get spicy.
A year ago, I'd seen him on a podcast called Drink Champs. Great show. And it was an amazing appearance. Noriega and them were there, the rappers that I love, and they all had their gold chains and stuff on. And Kanye said, only millionaires wear chains. They said, what? He said, I'm a billionaire. Billionaires don't wear their money on their body. I tucked my chain and I said, oh, snap.
How good was that callback to Kanye? Chappelle recalls a moment from Kanye's Drink Champs interview, where Kanye boldly claimed that only millionaires wear chains because billionaires don't need to show off. He jokes about immediately rethinking his own chain-wearing habits, which perfectly captures Kanye's mix of brilliance and unpredictability. This was classic Chappelle, turning something bizarre into pure comedy gold. And yeah, the next bit is just as wild.
It was a good appearance. It was fun and funny. But when he woke up, he went on Drink Champs again. This time, he was on one. He was mad about something. He said, I can say anti-Semitic things, and Adidas can't drop me. Now what? Adidas dropped that nigga immediately. Ironically, Adidas was founded by Nazis, and they were offended. I guess the student had surpassed the teacher.
That Adidas joke was pure gold. Chappelle brings up Kanye's second Drink Champs appearance, where things took a darker turn when Kanye started bragging about how he could say anti-Semitic stuff without losing deals. The punchline? Adidas, a company founded by Nazis, being offended by Kanye's comments. The irony here was off the charts, and Chappelle delivered it perfectly.
It's a big deal. He had broken the show business rules. This is a rule. You know, the rules of perception. If they're black, then it's a gang. If they're Italian, it's a mob. But if they're Jewish, it's a coincidence, and he should.
This next part really hits hard. Chappelle moves on to the unspoken rules of show business, pointing out how different ethnicities are portrayed and how mentioning Jewish people is basically forbidden. His comparison of how black, Italian, and Jewish people are perceived is both funny and thought-provoking. He has this way of making you laugh, while also going, wait, he's kinda right. Get ready, he's about to take things up another notch.
Kyrie Irving posted a link to a movie that he had seen on Amazon. No caption on the post or nothing like that, but apparently this movie had some, I don't know, anti-Semitic tropes or something. It was some weird title like From Hebrew to Negro or something. And the NBA told him he should apologize, and he was slow to apologize. And then the list of demands to get back in their good graces got longer and longer, and this is where, you know, I draw the line. I know the Jewish people have been through terrible things all over the world, but you can't blame that on black Americans. You just can't.
Chappelle's take on Kyrie Irving was something else. He dives into the controversy around Kyrie sharing a link to a film and how the NBA's list of demands for Kyrie's apology just kept growing. While acknowledging the struggles of the Jewish community, Chappelle makes a strong point about how Black Americans shouldn't be blamed for everything. His blend of humor and social commentary is unmatched. Stick around. This next bit is even more biting.
A fair punishment would be he should just post a link to Schindler's List and y'all write your own captions. Kyrie Irving's black ass was nowhere near the Holocaust.
That Schindler's List suggestion? Savage. Chappelle jokingly suggests that Kyrie could have just posted a link to Schindler's List with his own caption to make things even. His sarcastic take on the absurdity of the backlash Kyrie faced shows how Chappelle can find humor in even the most tense situations. This was the kind of joke that only Chappelle could pull off. And trust me, he's not done yet.
I saw one news pundit screaming about Kanye. She said, mental health is no excuse for that type of language. Yes, it is, bitch. You can kill somebody if you're mentally ill. Listen, okay, I don't think Kanye is crazy at all. I think he's possibly not well.
Did you catch that mental health joke? Chappelle mocks a pundit's take that mental illness isn't an excuse for Kanye's behavior, sarcastically arguing that mental health can absolutely be a reason. After all, people use it as a defense in court. It's classic Chappelle, blending humor with a pointed critique of public perception. He's walking the tightrope of edgy humor like a pro here. And yep, the next part is even sharper.
And your mind might start connecting some kind of lines, and you could maybe adopt the delusion that the Jews run show business. It's not a crazy thing to think, but it's a crazy thing to say out loud, and I kind of like this.
Man, he really didn't hold back on that Hollywood bit. Chappelle touches on conspiracy theories about Jewish influence in the entertainment industry, pointing out how it's not entirely crazy to think that, but it's definitely crazy to say it out loud. His take perfectly balances humor and commentary, making a sensitive topic surprisingly digestible. It's bold, it's funny, and yeah, he's got more.
Now the midterms are over in this crazy climate, and I gotta tell you, I feel like this midterm, like all of humanity depends on it. And it's an ominous sign. The most ominous sign of the midterms, I believe, would be Herschel Walker, who I don't want to speak badly of because he's black. But I have to admit, he's observably stupid. Even when he's not talking, his mouth be open a little bit like. He's the kind of guy that looks like he thinks before he makes a move on tic-tac-toe.
That Herschel Walker part? Brutal, but hilarious. Chappelle doesn't hold back as he describes Walker as observably stupid and jokes about his permanently open mouth. The tic-tac-toe bit? Comedy gold. Chappelle was in his element here, and he's not done roasting yet.
And I'm watching the news now, they're declaring the end of the Trump era. Now, okay, I can see how in New York you might believe this is the end of his era. I'm just being honest with you. I live in Ohio amongst the poor whites. A lot of you don't understand why Trump was so popular, but I get it, because I hear it every day. He's very loved. And the reason he's loved is because people in Ohio have never seen somebody like him. He's what I call an honest liar. Well, I'm not joking right now. He's an honest liar. That first debate, I've never seen anything like it. I've never seen a white male billionaire screaming at the top of his lungs, "This whole system is rigged," he said. And across the stage was a white woman, Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama, sitting over there looking at him like, "No, it's not." I said, "Now wait a minute, bro."
Chappelle really nailed it with his Trump analysis. He explains why Trump remains so popular among poor white Americans, calling him an honest liar, and recounting Trump's shocking admission that he exploits the rigged system. It's a mix of sharp observation and clever humor that only Chappelle could pull off. This was the kind of bit that makes you laugh and think at the same time. And the ending? Pure fire.